Guys, we are live. Welcome back to the show. This is the earliest we've probably ever gone live on a Thursday, but that's due to our special guest today, Mark Atwood, coming to us from Ireland. And we are very excited to have him with us. We were just talking before the show. He's been watching us for 6 years. We've been watching his stuff for a while. We cover a lot of the same stuff. And what I like about Mark is he's not afraid to go there. As crazy as it might sound, it's all worth consideration. And turns out a lot of it's turning out to be true. And we have evidence now with the Epstein files and stuff like that. But before we get started, I just want to make a few quick announcements. There are still a few slots left for our Hawaii conference, April 20th to the 24th. It is 1 month away. Just
I'll
a li-
come.
come on over. Come on
Yeah.
over. We would love to have you there. Uh, we'll give you, I'll give you my speaking slot. You can come and you can take my spot.
Wow,
Um,
there you
I
go.
wouldn't do that.
That's quite an offer
but
there.
so we're 1 month away. I know that's a little last minute to try and book a trip to Hawaii and come on out, but if you feel like you could pull it off, there's room for you. If not, we have virtual passes for $55, which is a great deal. That includes all the speakers, opening and closing ceremonies, maybe some on-site activations and grid work or whatever. We'll see what the internet allows, but Journey to Truth.online is where you can find all of that information. And we do encourage you to go check out our brand new Secret Space Program documentary, A Lifetime of Silence Behind the Green Door. You can find that on our Patreon, but the easiest way to find it is through our website. Again, journeytotruth.online. That link is below in the description. And it is on its way to the streaming platforms, but we will keep you updated when we get an update ourselves on when that might happen. So stay tuned for that. But welcome to the show, Mark. We are so happy to have you here today. How are you doing?
It's my great honor to be here. Thank you very much. And thanks for the technical assistance earlier. I've had zero sleep in the last 24 hours, so I'm a little bit dim.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
Well, thank you
Sorry to
for
hear that.
still showing up on no sleep. We appreciate that. So, I mean, yeah,
There you go.
you're so awake in this world, you can't even sleep.
That's right. You're
Yeah,
probably right. Yeah.
yeah.
Too awake to sleep.
I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of people have been sleeping very well. The last 3 months have been, well, but the last 3 months have been intense, but
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah, I agree. I've been struggling with sleep myself. I feel like it has a lot to do with the energy, solar activity, blood moons, you
Mhm.
name it, all the above.
Yeah.
So, we are in a very interesting time right now, and I kind of wanted to get your opinion. So, I see you have a video on your channel called Make Ireland Great Again. And
Mm.
I think that's interesting because, the whole world is looking in on the United States, and there's this MAGA movement that is obviously in the middle of this big divide right now because of what's happening with this Iran conflict and everything with Israel. But I'm very curious to get your opinion. What does the United States look like from the outside looking in? Over there where you're from, what does all of this look like to you? And how is it playing out in your eyes?
Well, we have a demonic infestation. That's it, infestation
Infestation.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had the Biden years, and now we've got the Keir Starmer years in the UK, and these crazy communist Marxist bastards here. But looking at America from the outside, I mean, there's a lot of different perspectives on it. I have a perspective on it, but when I listen to people going, "What's going on? Is Trump going to war? Why is he doing all of this?" And then I say, "Stargates, demons, giants," and then they look at me like I'm mad and go back to their papers. And it's like, how does it look? Personally, I think it's looking very good, but I know a lot of people can't see that, but they haven't been able to see that for years. There are more people starting to understand it, and that's interesting, but it's not fast enough for people like us. And I do think the scare event, I do feel very strongly that's almost imminent. As if people aren't scared enough, but we just got to clap everybody out of their slumber. And I think I'm not actually answering your question. I don't want it. How does America look from the outside? America to me is one of the greatest countries ever. I went on tour there in 2022. I love America, and I had great interactions with everybody. I've always loved America. I've been going there since 1987 when I met Sean Penn and Madonna in New York. That was weird. And I just remembered somebody said I'm always dropping celebrity names. I just realized I did it again.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, part of the strange life that I've had. Thank God that the Biden presidency is over. Immigration has stopped. The gold standard's obviously coming in, or a new financial system. There's just so many good things going on, like fluoride being taken out of the water by Bobby Kennedy the other day, and I think he said creatine was coming into it. So there's lots of really good things, but people aren't really noticing that stuff because they're just watching the Iran thing, and I think that's thrown a lot of people out. And I'm doing a podcast on a really good political show later as well, called Rich Does Politics, and he had me on the other week, and I was like, "Well, I'm on your politics show," and there's a very 3D version of the way people are confused, I think, is the answer. There's the short answer that took me 10 minutes to get to. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I understand. I actually agree with the confusion. That's, you could say that's a tactic of the dark as well, because the devil thrives in confusion. And I think a lot of stuff there's a lot of disinformation put out there intentionally to muddy the waters. So I would say that, like, we can't just believe everything, and we know that at this point, especially we're at the age in the age of AI, and like you just can't believe what you see anymore. So the confusion is, I think, by design, but it's also forcing people to stop giving their power away, which I think is the more important thing. Because now that they don't know what to believe, some people are not believing in anything, but they're questioning everything now. And that's what we wanted the whole time. And I think that's a great place to be. So whenever you have things like the Epstein files released and just kind of showing us that everything we've been talking about for 6 years is true. And not only is it true, it's worse than we thought in some cases. So, like, what is it like for you doing your show and like now being vindicated in a sense that like I'm not crazy. Human cloning is real. Time travel is on the table. Like, there are things that we are just that aren't supposed to exist that are here now. What is that? What do you feel about that?
Well, I feel like I've been banging the same drum for years and years and years. And when 2020, when I started this podcast in 2020, I didn't know what I was going to say, right? And I literally got told, I don't know how you guys started, but I got told, start a podcast, go on YouTube, and I denied. I was being nagged for maybe weeks to do it, and then I finally did it. And one of my questions was, what am I going to talk about? And I got told, oh, you know what to talk about. And I've done like 10,000 hours since then of talking. And it's like, there was a kind of like burst of people on the scene talking about stuff. And a lot of them were just waking up. But I've been awake for a long time. I started properly waking up in 1988. And it was a slow process, but by the time I got to COVID, I was like, okay, I'm primed, I'm ready, and I've got a job to do. But I didn't really know what it was. And at that Christmas in 2020, I remember sitting down in the living room going, and I didn't do a podcast for 2 weeks. I was like, why am I doing this? I didn't do this to get famous. I didn't do this to make money. Why? What's my purpose? Because everybody was going on about Intel, and I hate that word, right? I've been saying since the beginning, the only intel you need comes from above, and it's all about your connection to God. And
Right.
all this stuff about information. And then I saw lots of people repackaging other people's information and calling it intel, and everybody was going mad for it because they were desperate to know what was going on. And then it was only when I got into the States in 22, which was a really weird and spiritual, amazing experience, because I got into the country. I, I, I was standing in the queue to get into America, and everybody in front of me was being taken off to interview rooms, and I had these fake papers, and I was like, what happens? I'm gonna get busted. And then I got a message, oh no, you'd be fine. And I got there, I slammed the papers down, and the guy looked at me and he said, you have any tobacco on you? I went, yeah, I've got some fags in my bag actually. He said, we don't use that word in America. Welcome to America. And I walked in looking over my shoulder going, how did I get in? And then we were followed by UFOs all around America, and then all sorts of weird stuff happened. And then I met people, and when I met them, I was like, they were like, "Oh God, you saved my life. You did that." And I was like, "What? Oh my God!" And then what I realized is that I think my job was just to be a bridge, and for the people that were already awake to know that they weren't alone, because everybody was isolated at that time, and it was a very lonely time for a lot of spiritual people, especially. And I think the whole thing was deliberately designed to destroy as many of us as possible. And I think that's why I loved your podcast and lots of other people. There's lots of great people that have done great work in the last 6 years. And I think that now, when you said about being vindicated, I've been very careful not to say I told you so, because I think that's it's like, then it's ego driven. It's just like,
Right.
I got told 3 years ago, make a video on Twitter. And now I'd stopped using Twitter all the way through because it was so censored. And I was like, a video on Twitter? And I got nagged and nagged and nagged. And I did it at 11 o'clock at night. And basically my message was, look, if you got jabbed, we know that you were duped and we're here for you. That was the message. And I got told it, when it gets to 1 million views, things will shift. And it's on 1.8 million now. And that was a very powerful thing for me, because my focus has shifted from, I've never been about waking people up. It's always been about, well, what are we going to do? What do we do about our health? What do we do about our sovereignty, spiritual sovereignty, emotional, mental, physical, health, money, everything? We've got to be responsible for ourselves and start abrogating responsibility to people we don't know, we don't trust. Why? That's the big lesson here. So I focused on building things that I think can help. So we built a healing center here nearly 3 years ago, which has just been amazing, and it's just been like so divinely guided and amazing. I can't even put words to it. I mean, if you told me 5 years ago I'd have a healing center, I'd have laughed at you. And the
Right.
same with the books that I bought. I've set up a publishing company, publishing truth books about true things, and bypassing the publishing industry, because I'm very much a fan of the Buckminster Fuller idea that you can't fight this system, you have to build the one that you want. So how do I feel about things coming out now? I mean, X has turned into 4chan. Everybody's now a conspiracy theorist doing their own research, and which is brilliant. It's a genius strategy on the one hand, and on the other hand, is it manifesting more child trafficking and bad stuff? Well, I think the answer is both. And I think that every single thing that we've lived through in our lives has been a double-edged, quadruple-edged sword with multiple meanings, because this is a spiritual war. And, that's been the most amazing thing about it for me, is that lots of people that watch my channel have been going through the same stuff. And it's just a privilege to sort of cheer them up every day, really. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said, because it isn't like we're not trying to say I told you so. That's happening on its own. I mean, the truth will do that, right?
Mhm.
It's not, and I put in the title like "Who's laughing now?" Whatever, clickbait. But it's true. We've been laughed at and ridiculed for so long, and then now it's taken seriously, and we're not getting apologies from anybody, and from anybody that laughed at us, but we're not asking for that. And in fact, I think it's amazing to see everyone thinking for themselves and critically thinking now, and breaking out of that. But yeah, X is interesting. I like how you call it 4chan. Elon called it the town square of the world himself, which it really is. Like, to me, that's the only place to go for accurate news or intel,
Yep.
as he would say. Um, so as far as what, like, okay, we're talking about the United States the whole time, but over there, like, are you seeing anything unfolding with the royal family and things of that nature? Like, we see, Prince Andrews, who was it Andrews that got arrested and then let go the same day. But like, this is interesting to me. There's some action over there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're trying to. I personally think this is all God's plan. So I'm an observer to it, and I personally believe the royal family were all taken out quite a long time ago, and most of them were taken out a long time ago. But the public has to see something, and there's kind of this. I don't believe anything, as you said earlier. They don't believe anything anymore. But so, which is forcing them to go inward, right? And that's what I think this is all about. And so, watching Andrew and Lord Mandelson get arrested and then not get arrested was like, it's kind of like, oh well, nothing's ever going to change, and it's not going to happen, and we know they're bad, but they get away with it, and they'll just get away with it again. So you've got that kind of cynicism going on, but at the same time, it's also getting people up off their sofas, and it's happening. Ireland and England and Britain are connected, but they are very separate countries with different issues going on with the way that the public has been MK Ultra'd over the years. In Ireland, it's very much about, in 2012 there was a massive, or 2010 to 2012 there was a massive uproar in this country, which is obviously predominantly Catholic for the last 1500 years since the Romans took it over. And the uproar was that the paedophile priests in this country were not punished by the church. They were scattered around the world and replaced with priests from India and Sri Lanka and places like that. And that what happened, the effects of that on this country was devastating in many ways, because a lot of people turned their back on the church, but they turned their back on God at the same time, because they conflated the two. So you've got this, a lot of people who were sort of floundering around, because the Catholic Church was a horrific organization full of paedophilia, subjugated the masses here for centuries. Yet the people who go to Catholic Church are good people. The Irish people are really good people. They're so nice that it's like they just let everybody in. Come in, come in. Yeah, sure, sure. Because they've got this argument. Well, look at the 35 million Irish Americans, for example, left Ireland, but they don't realise that all of it's been controlled by the same puppeteers. And I think what's happening is that all of this mass immigration in this country, the same as in the UK, but in the UK it started 40 years ago, and it was slower. Here it's been very quick and huge, and there's been a massive transformation in society here in a very short period of time. And the businesses are all going under, and the regulations are just ridiculous, and hate speech laws. I mean, it's just piled on every single day. A paedophile for the children's minister. I mean, it's just ridiculous almost. And that's very interesting, because it is as if COVID wasn't enough to wake people up, which it wasn't, unbelievably.
Right.
All these extra layers are going on, which again is getting people off their sofas, and they're either going inwards, or they're shouting in the streets, or they're arguing. But I get a strong feeling that unity is starting to happen amongst the people. Although there's infighting, I mean, even before this show, I was just checking my phone, and somebody sent a link to some other alleged truth who's been slagging me off, and I'm like looking at it, going, "What?
We're
What?
very familiar with that. That happens
I
Yeah.
know,
a
it's
lot.
crazy. It's
Oh yeah,
crazy.
we get sent
Oh my God.
probably
It's
multiple times a year. Oh, look at this person that's talking trash about you guys.
right.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
constant.
Well, I'm glad you've been. I'm not glad you've been through it, but I'm glad you've been through it as well. Because it's crazy, isn't it? Because you're trying to serve people. It's like it's a calling, it's a mission, and it's like, and I'm doing really positive things, and I'm like getting slagged off for it, and it doesn't bother me. It just surprises me, occasionally when it happens. You're like, well,
Right.
what did I do? What did I do to that guy? And then it's like, from my point of view, I'm like, well, I know my heart, I know who I am, I know my friends, and I know what I'm doing. And then I look at this guy and I'm like, well, what is he? Is he an agent? What the hell is that all about?
Right.
It's really strange. Because
Hmm.
I was very naive at the beginning. I was like, well, we're all on the same team and we're all going to be best buddies. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's. Go ahead, Aaron. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah. Well, everyone's at their own place is what you realize. And, the people that are gonna attack others, the people that are gonna throw around hatred and division, and it's all ego-based stuff, right? That's where they're at. But what they want is for you to take the bait. Because if you lower yourself to that frequency, now they got you, right? And now you're lowering down to that level. So what we've learned is like you just got to stay in your sovereignty, stay at your level. To keep your side of the street clean, as I had a friend put it once. Like you got to keep your side of the street clean, and they have their own karma. The universe is gonna deal with that, and they have their own lessons, and that's just where they're at, right? But you
Hmm.
can't start attacking back, right?
No. And
Yeah.
like this hilarious things that we hear, like we know it's not true. I can sleep at night. Like I know, like listen, like they
Hmm.
can. You just have to get to a place where people can believe whatever they want.
Right.
But like I know the truth in my heart, and I know who I really am, and what we're really trying to do here with this podcast and in this movement, and like bring this truth to people, and whatever this is, that we're all a part of. Um, it's a passion project for us, and we know our heart is in it, and we know who we are. So It's we can sleep at night. And if they want to get
Mhm.
mad, if they want to make us wake up and put us on their itinerary every day and their to-do list and go off on us, then that's on them, you know. So anyway, it
And a lot of
you're
times
muted.
it's
You're
free
muted, Mark.
promote. A lot of times it's free promotion anyway, because the people that
Right.
aren't going to take that seriously are like, "Oh, let me go check these guys out, or let me go check Mark Atwood out,"
I thought I
and
saw
then
you
they're
talking, but
actually,
he was muted. Yeah.
I know I was. I
yeah,
told you I'm technically inept tonight because
Yeah.
I've not slept. No, it's nice living in their head rent free, and I feel it's
right,
kind of fun in a way. And I try to have fun with all of this because I know, even 6 years ago, I was like, I was trying to make people laugh, and I was like, well, how can I be laughing? There's a genocide going on. But it's all because demons hate laughter. It
Mhm.
disperses it, and somebody said to me the other day, "How can you make a joke about red shoes?" And I was like, because the devil hates laughter. We've got to keep our humor because we have to rise above all of this, right? And we
Yes,
have to, if you can't laugh and dance and, have fun in the middle of the madness, that I always think about like Second World War. There were like the people I used to admire when I was a kid looking back on the Second World War in England were people like Arthur Askey, who was like a comedian that just kept everybody chipper through the Second World War.
yeah,
And I think that that is like the one of the most important roles there is because it is a very difficult spiritual journey that we're all going on, and that's all of us, not just the people watching this. It's us as well, right? So we're all
Yeah.
learning, and the lessons. It's just profoundly amazing, and I know it's a cliche, but it's an extraordinary time to be around, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Actually, when I look at it, because this had to be cleaned up. We came here to help.
Mhm.
That's what it is, and it's a beautiful thing to behold. And do I understand it all? No. Do I have all the answers? No. Do I have all the intel? No. But I know enough to help people see that humanity is incredible. We have been infiltrated. It is a spiritual war. It's been going on for a very long time. A lot of us have been here multiple times. A lot of the audience watching this have been here multiple times. They understand this. You can't die because you're an eternal spirit. So what are you worried about? Let's have fun. Let's win this thing and let's build a beautiful new world. That's
Right.
that's what it
And the
is.
war is won within. That's
Yeah.
the key. The battle is within, because what happens is if you're always letting the outside dictate your internal world, then that's how the dark wins.
And that's what this is
That's
all.
the whole game can be summed up in that,
Yeah, just
where
perfect.
you give
That
up
was a
your
great
sovereignty.
podcast. I'll see you later.
There you go. All right, we can yeah, see you
Yeah.
later.
Done.
Wrap it
That's
up.
it. That's it, guys. That's all you need to know.
We just saved the
Right.
world.
Right. Well, that's it, because like we are all co-creators in this reality, and we are the ones actually dictating what this reality is based on what we're manifesting, what we're all co-creating together. But what the great trick has been, and always has been, is to get us to forget that, get us to forget we're sovereign eternal beings, like you just said, and get us to create the world they want to create, that they are able to feed off of, rather
Yeah.
than one they're not able to control or feed off of, which is the one where we're sovereign and creating a reality we want to create, a
Hmm.
consciously created reality. And that's the true awakening. That's the true, you know, all the other things are details, and they're important. There's important stuff, but like ultimately that's what it all comes down to. And that's the world I see it is we're moving into. And that's the more and more and more people that step onto that level, whether you're stepping into your sovereignty and you're raising your consciousness to that level where you stop letting everything outside of you dictate what's going on inside of you, and you're like, no, I'm gonna look for the good. I'm gonna create good in this world, no matter what anyone else says or does.
Right.
Yeah.
Boom, that's it. Like
Yeah.
that's the level, like I see enough of humanity getting to, where we're gonna really, and we're already seeing it, this rapid transformation. We're still in the chaotic phase of craziness because the old's trying to hold on for dear life and cause destruction on its way out. Right. So,
Right.
but we're moving into that bright future more and more and more every day. So,
And we've been tempered like raw steel in a furnace.
hmm
So, I got attacked this week, like demonic attack. I get those all the time, right? And I knew exactly what it was, and I just held it and I got rid of it. And I was like, whoa, Mark, you couldn't do that 5 years ago,
Hmm.
And I'm like, that's amazing because that was a big one. but you know,
Hmm.
Right.
that's still going on, but not as bad as it was 5 years ago. So I'm seeing it is getting better, and I just want everybody to be around to see the future, because you know I hate it when people die and leave, and I'm like I've lost a few people, and I'm like, oh bugger, they're missing it, they're going to miss it. I know they're not going to miss it because they're there, but here I still have it a
Right.
very I'm still attached to the 3D because it's fun, and I just
It
want I
is.
want everybody to see the other side of this, because we're just not what we're supposed to be at the moment, and our potential is phenomenal.
Right. Yeah, I heard, I forget who it was years ago. There was this, it was this whole video about escapism and like people trying to escape the 5D all the time, and they were like, you don't understand, the Earth is like Disney World in the sense that like you can do things here that you can't do in the higher in other realms, right? And
Yeah.
you could there's ways like you can enjoy this reality and have fun and eat the cheeseburger, whatever it is that you want to do, right? That isn't available to people in other dimensions. So it's like make the best of it while you're here. And somebody told me once, the best advice I've ever gotten, stop taking life so seriously, right? And don't forget to have fun. And like it's hard to look at this stuff and not get upset and angered, and I understand all that. But you can't stay there, because if you stay there, then you're like feeding that, right? So we have to, it's so easy to say rise above it, but I feel like they bombard us with these programmed messages over and over and over. So if we keep bombarding the audience with the truth and this good advice, then maybe it'll finally catch on. So it's just this really interesting thing that we're in the middle of.
Well, we're up against a multi-trillion dollar propaganda media machine, right? So all of us little guys together, it's amazing, and it's David and Goliath. I love it, because I know
Right,
we're going to win. We've won. We're going to win. It's going to be, and they're gone. They're going to be. It's over for them,
right,
Yeah.
and we're watching it. And I just personally, I want to help as many people get through that as possible. That's really my motivation, my biggest motivation is the children. That's the thing that gets me out of bed every morning, because I had to make that decision because I knew about the New World Order years ago. I knew that I'm ex-military. I knew that I was tagged years ago. I mean, I've been attacked my whole life, and in 2020, I was like, okay, I wasn't sure. I thought maybe, I knew there were going to be dots on the doors, and some of us were going to be carted off and executed. And I was like, well, am I willing for that to happen by speaking out? And the answer was yes, because at the very least, I wanted my 5 children to know that their dad did something. I mean, I've said this before, but I couldn't storm Parliament or the White House or whatever. So I told some jokes, wrote some poems, and put on a podcast because that's all I had.
right. And something you mentioned earlier about like people worried about it not happening fast enough, right? And who knows, we might not see what we want to see in this lifetime, but we know that we're participating in making it a better place. And the fact that we're even having these conversations and not getting censored anymore, and like things are shifting, and like we just have to be grateful for how far we've come already. And I think people forget that. We get, distracted by the chaos, but when you really like step back and look at how far we've come in just a short amount of time and where we'll be in the next few years, even by the end of this year, like we're in this quantum leap right now. And I see that like fundamentally, I see the world changing technologically, spiritually, medically, like who knows where we'll be, but it's happening. But these things take time. They're not going to happen overnight. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, look at the title of your podcast, right? Truth is the destination, but it's the journey too. Now, I'm a big proponent of enjoy the journey. If I can take a ferry, I'll do that all day long over taking an airplane. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
enjoy the journey, slow it down, enjoy the trip, enjoy the whole thing, because and find where the enjoyment is. I mean, it's like that old Buddhist joke about a man being chased by a lion and falls off a cliff and he's holding onto a branch and the lion's up there and the branch is breaking. So what does he do? He stares at the flower. That's the Buddhist
Yeah.
joke. I
Right.
didn't understand it. I didn't understand it for years, but I get it now. Because if I don't make it, so what? I've left a legacy, and I'm very proud of. So
Right.
I think that's,
Eh,
and I know who I am, and I'm not perfect, and I've never claimed to be perfect, but I'm doing my damnedest, and I'm doing my damnedest to help as many people as possible, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if we're eternal beings, what destination are you trying to get to when you have
Exactly.
you exist for all eternity, the real you exists for all eternity, not just this temporary experience, right?
Right.
So again, that's the trick. They want you to forget that. They want you to think you are this temporary experience, this body in 3D, and that's all you are. So then they can control you and they can
Hmm.
manipulate you super easily. But
Right.
you wake up from that, you can't be manipulated or controlled anymore. And then you stop giving your power away, which means you start living in the present. You start enjoying the present. You start living, truly living, and you stop reacting, staying in reaction mode all the time, where you're just in this unconscious reaction mode to everything happening, to your own impulses, your thoughts that aren't even your own, everything, right? You're just in reaction mode. And that's where they want to keep you. And that's what you see everything they do is all these tactics to manipulate you to stay in reaction mode and to react, to keep reacting to things
Right.
unconsciously, right? So it's like, wait, I'm an eternal being. Their death isn't real. It's just a transition to it. In fact, this is less real, you could say, than when I exit this experience. And that's what like every near-death experiencer has said ever, right? They all pretty much say the same thing. And they're like, oh my God, that's so much more real. And this is just like a dream that the real me is having, basically.
So I,
Right?
I want to chime in really quick on a comment here. Eric's 3333 said it will only happen if we manifest it together, like Aaron said, Tyler, pitch the popcorn. So yeah, I agree 1,000,000% with that. And the whole Q thing and the get your popcorn ready and that whole thing. In my opinion, like we're just as much a part of this movement as anybody in that military operation.
Yeah.
And like getting your popcorn right, like what they're trying to tell us is that everything we are seeing in the political arena is a movie, is a stage, and
Hmm.
it's all predetermined. And yes, there are unknowns, and there's things like time travel, and like there's this temporal war and multi-dimensional war. There's a lot of layers to it. But when you get down to the actual surface level 3D political issues, it's very staged. It's very staged. Joe Rogan put it best. It's like rooting for WWE wrestling at this point. And it's like everyone's going out and people still getting hurt and actually, sweating and bleeding and everything else, but it's predetermined. It's staged. So it is like watching a movie. So when they say get the popcorn ready, like they're trying to tell you like you're not, this isn't the real truth here. And
The
then we're
surface
all
level.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
surface
The
level.
surface level of things is not the real layer of things going
Right.
on.
And
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that whole operation? I know there's a lot of people who thrown the towel in as far as Q and his white hats, and it just gets laughed at and ridiculed. I mean, so bad these days. What are your thoughts, Mark? Is this something that's still relevant, or is it still happening? Is it Bullocks?
I wrote a poem called "Where We Go Once," so I'm kind of stuck with that. I mean, Q for me, I read all the drops when they came out, and I was like, "Oh my God,
Mhm.
this is amazing!" Because
Same,
I
same.
was like, I knew this stuff, but I learned so much as well. And then the Anons were incredible, and it was so much fun because I've waited 30 years for this stuff to start coming out, and it's like the Epstein files coming out now is like. Well, yeah, we knew that 10 years ago, but it's like, oh God, the other people are seeing. My neighbor comes around and says, "Have you seen this? Have you seen this?" And I'm like, "Thank, this is amazing." I'm seeing all these people. That's why I said X is like 4chan now. I I personally think, and it's not a popular opinion, that the Q drops are, yes, they're part of a military operation, but it's a spiritual and it's an intergalactic, multi-dimensional operation, and that's been my feeling since day one. I haven't changed my mind about that, and I think the Q post will form a new gospel or will be studied for hundreds of thousands of years. I think they're extraordinary,
Hmm.
and the people that slag off Q have never read the posts.
Exactly. Every
They've
Right.
time.
never read them. I mean,
Or they've read a
I did,
few and that's it. And then they
yeah. I
make an
mean,
assumption.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I had an interview the other week, and somebody said, "Well, what's this QAnon nonsense?" And I went, "Have you read the Q post?" He went, "No." I said, well, "Why are you calling it nonsense?" It's like you've got to read it. It's like you can't slag off the Bible unless you've read it. You know?
Right.
Right.
And
So I think it's a very spiritual thing. And I know Ethan Lucas, when I met him in America, he wrote a book about comparing it to the teachings of Christ or something. But I'm not really a Bible man. I'm not a religious man either. I'm a spiritual man, and for me, it was extremely spiritual. And everything
Yeah.
Donald Trump has been doing has been extremely spiritual. I just look at
Yeah.
everything through a spiritual lens, and I'm as I'm as cool as a cute. Apart from normal life, I'm still bringing up my kids. I'm still going to the shop. I'm still doing normal stuff. But I try to look at everything through a spiritual lens. And the way I see it, the biggest, hardest lesson, because I went through my own long, dark night of the soul about 8 years ago, and was suicidal, and I literally got saved by God. And it was like,
Mm.
it was so profound. It was like, you have to let everything go. What, everything? Yes, everything. What, including my kids? Yes, everything. What? Yes. And it was like that. And it was like, you've got a job to do. And I was like, really? I've just lost my marriage. I thought I'd lost my kids, my business, everything had gone. And something kept me going. And it's that thing that keeps you going. I'm like a cockroach, right? I just won't ever
Yeah.
stop, because I don't want to miss anything as well, right? Because I've got that part of my personality. I want to know everything that's going on. I've got this a childlike joy about finding out the truth. I remember I had a neighbor years ago in back in Cheshire in England who we started talking about 9/11. This is about 2005, and I said, well, obviously that wasn't, terrorists with knife cutters is not possible. The guy couldn't even fly a plane. And then what was that thing that hit the Pentagon? And he literally put his fingers in the air, go la da 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 da. I was like, what are you doing? And then when he took his fingers out, I said, why did you do that? And he said, well, if that's true, it's going to destroy my worldview. And I was like, why is that a problem? I couldn't understand. And I had an
Right.
American friend came to visit, and I said the same thing, and he stood up and he was going to punch me. I had to stop him from punching. I was like, "What? Don't you want to know the truth?" He's like, "You can't
No.
say that about America." I was like, "Hang on, America's just been attacked from what?" So I just find it all very exciting, actually. I wish people didn't have to die in this process, but I don't. I know that death's not real, so it's kind of like walking that line between two worlds, isn't it?
Right. And that's
Right.
why and Aaron, I know you want to say something, but real quick, and
No,
that's
go for it.
why I'm watching the Man in the High Castle right now, the show about the parallel
Mm.
realities and World War II being won by Germany and whatever, all this stuff. Uh it's interesting because they ask people like, are you afraid of death? And if you say no, then they're not going to kill you, they're going to torture you because they know that death isn't the worst thing that could happen to you, right? So and they know that. So that's why people get tortured, and that's why there's solitary confinement and things like that. Because in fact, like the old Lemurian belief, just based on books I've read, when you die, you're actually, the chains are being broken and you're being liberated and freed from
Yeah.
from this dense reality. So they don't really want to free you, you know. So in a sense, if you look at it that way, um, people are still being freed all the time. But Aaron, were you going to say something?
Yeah. Going back to what you were talking about, those two people where you're trying to tell them what you have found to be the truth, and they're like so resistant to it, not even considering, not even being like, oh, okay, well, let me hear you out and consider it. It's just like, nope, I can't even. And like the one guy you said even told you no, because that's gonna go against my entire worldview. He's literally telling you. So this is the level so many people are at. No, they don't actually want the truth. And many times they think they do consciously. They'll tell you all day long, oh yeah, of course I want the truth. They don't. Why? Because they've attached their identity, who they think they are, not who they actually are, who they think they are, the ego, to a certain paradigm, a certain worldview, which is what the world has given them. And anything that threatens that they think is threatening them, and it feels like death, right? So they will resist. They don't actually want the truth. What they actually want is they want everything to constantly reinforce what they already believe, their own paradigm that they already have, right?
Right.
And whenever you're like trying to tell them the truth from a genuinely good place, you're like, I'm trying to help you, and they have to get to that place of wanting the truth and wanting, or even being open to the possibility that, hey, maybe what I already believe and already my whole paradigm, maybe it's wrong. Maybe there is something else. You at least have to get there. But so many people in the past have not been there, and that's why they've been so easy to manipulate and program, because the system, the dark controllers of the system, they're like, oh, look, most people, all we have to do is get them to attach their identity to a belief system. And once we do, boom, the rest of their life, they will never let go of that.
Right.
Well, that's breaking down now. And there's still people stuck there. And there's still people for the rest of their life now. I think will stay there. But more than ever before, we're seeing people wake up out of that. And they're like, no, 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 wait a second. there's something more going on that I'm not being told about. Wait a second. I actually just want the truth more than I want to be right or more than I want what's comfortable to me or my identity, you know. So people are and that's where you have to start letting go of the ego, right? And that's where it ties into the spiritual reality, spiritual war going on is like the
Hmm.
ego is kind of like spirit that forgets its spirit, that you're just like you think you are your ego. Your ego is just a tool you're using to navigate this 3D realm. It's not who you are. It's just a tool. But when you think you are that, you can't wake up spiritually, right? So
Right,
it really it's like you if you can't let go of your ego, you're never going to actually wake up, right?
right.
So those people you talk to, they weren't ready for that, right? And
Well, also,
we've all been there, right?
I think I also came to realize that they weren't driving the car.
Hmm.
And this is my big realizer because my earliest memory is demons trying to recruit me in my bedroom when I was 3 or 4 years old. And
Interesting.
that was like huge, you know, and I blocked that
Yeah.
out for years. And then it all came back about 15, 20 years ago. And I was like, whoa, whoa, God, Jesus, where did those memories go? Um, you know, I often say the whole world has been demonically possessed. Well, possession is there's levels of that, right? But you
Yeah.
know, there's a hierarchical structure of demons that, and they know who you are before you get here. If you've got a
Mhm.
certain frequency, or if you have a contract or an agreement to come here, they will they'll come at you. And actually, I'm grateful for them because you know, if it wasn't for demons, I wouldn't be who I am now. If I
Right.
didn't have that adversary, I would not be who I am today. And
Which
I'm
is
very,
which is why they're allowed to exist in the first place,
yeah,
Right.
it
right?
makes
Otherwise, they
sense.
wouldn't exist,
And the
right?
other big lesson that I was going to say earlier is that, you know, in my even in my darkest days, I just repeat the same thing. Everything's exactly as it's meant to be until I understand it again. And then I'm like, okay, it doesn't make any sense, but I get it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's brilliant. And then a memory just popped up there. The last time I did a mushroom ceremony, it was Kali the Destroyer said, "You wrote all this." And I was like, oh, because we all wrote all of this.
Yep.
And that makes it even more
And
brilliant. And
yeah,
it's like
and
when I was bringing my kids up, I said, "This is a hologram." Don't tell me it's a hologram, Dad. I said, "No, but when you understand that it is, it's even more amazing than
right.
if it wasn't."
Right.
But
Right.
it's not a hologram from like a desktop computer in space. Like it's a projection through our hearts, right? Like it's like we're projecting our own reality and we're agreeing to the rules of this reality, right? And like we agreed to experience limitation and distance and all this stuff that we're experiencing down here in the third dimension. So it's really interesting. And going back to like us being not in the driver's seat, like entity attachments are a very real thing and they can happen to anybody, even the most purely spiritual, hygienic, clean person, right? It can
Totally.
still happen to you if you have a chink in your armor, if you let your guard down, if you've experienced a death in the family, or you lost somebody, or going through a breakup, whatever. If
Trauma.
your
Yeah.
field is weakened by some form of trauma, they're gonna jump on that opportunity. And then if you're not self-aware enough to understand that you're not in the driver's seat anymore, that's how they're controlling. That's how they've been controlling the planet, and that's why our
Mhm.
episode with Laura Van Tyne recently is doing so well. And in fact, I was surprised to see the reel I made kind of going viral on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And I'm like, wow, people like are actually ready to hear this stuff now.
Yeah,
They're ready to hear this stuff now. And
yeah.
that go ahead.
No, no, no. It's just like thinking back to 2020. I went on this podcast and I didn't know what I was going to say, and then I started talking about the demon memory, and then it just came out of my mouth, and then the podcast ended, and I was like, "Oh shit! I've just talked about demons on YouTube. I'm ruined." I really thought, "Oh, that's it," because I had a business at the time as well. I was like, "All my clients are going to dump me now. I'm screwed." And then I got all these emails from people saying, "Same here, same," but I've never told anybody. And I was like, oh, that's when I got the big insight because it's not just them driving the car, that all they have to do is trip you up at some point so that you then have guilt and shame because they're the bars on the prison. And
Mhm.
that stops people speaking out. And that's the beauty of this time is that people are finding the courage to go, do you know what? After all this madness, I don't care. I'm just going to tell everybody, because and then when you share a story, you're helping so many people, especially if you do it on a platform like this, that you don't even realize how much you're helping them because they realize they're not alone because that guilt and shame can be released. And
Right.
that's the most beautiful thing. And then when you see people release that guilt and shame and start realizing, well, I'm seeing the word demon, right, is just everywhere now. You know, the Twitter all day has been full of pictures. There was a really good one today because I did a video about the House of Lords yesterday passed a law in the UK to legalize full-term abortion. And I know you've had that in some states in America. I know New Zealand's had it, Australia's had it. That is totally satanic. And there are really, really high-profile people now saying this government is demonic, and they're posting pictures of demons in the Houses of Parliament. You wouldn't have seen that 2 years ago, even. So
Right.
yeah, it is. It is. People are starting to realize that the demons are a real thing. This is a multi-dimensional thing. I mean, even the video I
Yeah.
made about Trump being a time traveler a few years
Yeah,
ago, I
let's
was
go
like,
there.
well, that's the
Who?
thing. I mean, when it dawned on me, once you start piecing it all together, I mean, I've been a Tesla fan for years, and when I found out about John G. Trump years ago, I actually met Tesla in 21 when he'd written a paper about time travel, and then when I read the Ingersoll Lockwood books, and I decoded Back to the Future, and I looked at the Nick Gematria of '88, and I looked at Biff, and I was like, hang on a minute, this
Yeah.
shit's real.
And also Thomas Townsend Brown, if you watch Back to the Future, there's a lot of like Doc Brown. There's so many references to him in that as well. And he was like a kind of like a Tesla figure that got,
Yeah.
kind of like brushed off and censored and everything else.
Right.
And yeah, there's so much disclosure in Back to the Future. People, if you watch it and you
Oh,
have any
it's
idea,
amazing.
it's amazing.
It's
Well,
Yeah,
amazing.
time
and the
travel.
fact that
Yeah.
the New York Post highlighted the Trump time traveler theory
Yeah.
Mhm.
is very interesting to me because, in my opinion, if they, excuse me, if they want this stuff buried, why put it in the spotlight at all?
Oh no, it's all
Why
disclosure.
generate energy
Mhm.
around the conversation?
It's disclosure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's disclosure. And I know people like will have a hard time believing that. But when you really get into the origins of time travel and the shadow government and the history, which is a whole episode, we covered a lot. I every time I look into it, you just find more and more to support the fact that we are a time traveling civilization. We have been for quite some time. It's a big
100%.
part of the story here. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then immortality. I mean, I just saw Dolly J Dream. Hi, Dolly. Post a message in the chat about Highlander and I was going to bring that up anyway
Yeah.
because
Great show.
that's being remade. That's not an accident. That's being remade now
Hmm.
about an immortal Scottish man.
Mm.
Where's Trump's family from?
I just got chills when you
Scotland.
said that. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
something about that, right?
Yeah, you cannot die, McLeod. You're immortal. It's going to be brilliant. And there's no accident that that's coming out again. A remake. And the movies are great for all. You said that TV show. I want to go and watch that, the Hightower thing. I just watched the whole JFK Jr. love story thing, and I swear JFK Jr. is in it twice.
Oh yeah, actually,
Yeah,
yeah, the
the real
pilot of the
JFK.
plane,
He's the
yeah,
pilot of the plane, and he's earlier on in a car, let somebody out of a car. Because I was
Yeah.
watching it, go, there he is.
Yeah.
and they would have fun. Like whenever Robert F. Kennedy, when he was asked about it, yeah,
That bit,
exactly.
that bit.
It was
Yeah.
he was on a
He
live,
touched. Yeah.
but for the
It's
people
all
that
there.
don't know, so he was on a live interview just like this, and somebody was in the chat and they said, if JFK Jr. is still alive, scratch your nose, and he scratched his nose, yeah, and everyone was like, it was like mic drop. Oh my God.
After you see him on screen like looking
Visibly
like he's
read the
reading the
comment.
chat, and
Yes.
then he scratches his nose.
And then
Yeah.
just recently, I don't know if it was him or somebody else was talking about JFK Jr. and he kind of smirked and scratched his nose while he mentioned him again, as if like that's the sign now, like he's still alive, right? Uh,
Mhm.
so I know people just want to throw their arms up and just say that's QAnon bullshit, blah blah blah. Well, I mean, nothing makes sense. I heard a testimony the other day, and Mark, I'd love your opinion on this. This is changing it up a little bit, but this kid, this child prodigy that was on Ellen DeGeneres, her show.
Alan
Uh,
DeGenerate.
yeah,
Yeah.
DeGenerate. Yeah.
Right.
That's how I call him.
So he was
Right.
a very young child prodigy years ago, whenever her show was really like in the spotlight. And afterwards, as he was walking back to the locker room, this is what he told his parents. This little boy looked in and he saw Ellen eating a rotisserie, like a chicken, right? A piece of chicken. and he claims that she unhinged her jaw and swallowed this whole piece of chicken whole, and then looked over and saw that the little boy saw him, and then hissed at him, and he ran back crying and told his mom like this is the story, right? And like years ago, we'd be like, yeah, right. But now I'm like, who the hell knows? Like, and what do you think? Because there's all these like celebrity clones and they're reptilians. Like, what do you feel? What do you think when you hear a story like that?
Well, I believe kids because
Yeah.
I've listened to the testimonies of a lot of people in their 70s who got abused as children, and nobody believed them, right? And the heartbreaking testimonies. And they spent 50 years never telling anybody. And that was a massive insight for me because when I realized that pretty much most of my family were abused, it was about 10 or 12 years ago, including myself. And it really hit me because I was like, oh my God, how has all this been kept secret for so long within a family? I mean, there's two guys I know here who both had UFO experiences. They live next door to each other. They're brothers. The UFO experiences happened 20 years ago and 50 years ago, and they never told each other. And it's like, it's so easy to keep secrets and dismiss a child, especially, right? But
Hmm.
children don't lie. And I remember as a child, I had lots of strange paranormal experiences, and nobody ever believed me. And I was like, well, screw you. I'm going to go and you just then you kind of block it out. And I think we should listen to the children much more and give them much more reverence because they are, they tell the truth.
Right.
They can't. Obviously some kids make stuff up, but I think we should give them. And it's like
Oh, froze up. Is he frozen? Or is it just me?
Yeah, he's
have I
frozen.
frozen?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
Have
there
I
you are.
frozen?
now you're
Yeah.
back.
Am I back?
Yeah, they
Now
didn't
you're
want
back.
you to say what you were about to say. It was the
Yeah. Well,
archons.
It's the archons.
hey, fuck the archons. So I
Uh,
think that's the
Jermaine.
attitude. Where did I get to? I was talking about. It's like when I think what I was saying was that if I tell my big UFO story, I know there's people always in the comments going, "Nah, he's talking shite. There's no evidence. He didn't have the video camera. Blah blah blah." But I know it was real, because I was there
right.
and I
Right.
have witnesses to loads of stuff. And I don't care if anybody believes me because it's not for them. It's for the other people, right? So I don't know if
Right.
that's answered your question at all
Well,
because
I could best, I guess I really just wanted to know if you thought Ellen was a reptilian or not.
oh, sorry. Yes.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
Alan, as I like to call him,
Yeah.
Oh
is
yeah.
definitely reptilian. And I think that's what Disclosure Day is going to be all about as well. That's going to be
Oh,
interesting. I
that
think.
movie, the Steven
Yeah,
Spielberg movie.
yeah, yeah. I think there's going to be I don't know, but I get the feeling it's going to be saying, well, they're already here. They're among us, and they look human. I think that's the.
And he even commented on the movie already saying that it's not all science fiction. Like he goes, everything in this movie like is not all sci-fi, right? So,
Yeah, well, the only sci-fi is that anybody believes that Steven Spielberg made the movie.
right. Well,
'Cause-
and
Right.
he's allegedly
Right.
one of them as well, as far as
Hmm.
pedos
Oh
go
yeah.
and stuff like that. Um, and
Well, Spielberg made so he was ET, right?
yeah,
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 and
yeah.
Jaws.
So ET is, another disclosure. And so Reagan saw a pre-screening of ET like at the White House, I believe, in like 81, I think, before it came out. And this is a as far as I'm concerned, it's a fact because Spielberg himself says this happened. And I think he has multiple interviews of him saying this happened. So Reagan stood up after the movie. He like he just kind of like calmly looked around to everyone, and then he goes, "Everything you all just watched in that movie is absolutely true," or
no, he
something
said
along.
there are
Or
those of
that's what it
you
is.
there are those of you in this room that know everything you just watched on that screen was absolutely true.
Okay, there's the actual
Something
quote, right?
along the very close to it.
I
Yeah.
heard a
And,
different story.
Oh, did
okay,
you?
well, this is how Spielberg tells it, and he said it with a straight face, but so he said it without smiling. He says with a straight face, didn't laugh ever afterwards, but some people like chuckled and laughed a little bit, just assuming he was joking. But then Spielberg, so it's almost like he has to tell you, but then he goes, "Oh, but I think he was just joking. He was just like a deadpan joke kind of thing."
Right.
But it's like, why? No.
Why would the president?
That's
Why would the
him
president
saying
say
what he
that? Yeah.
said,
What
being
in
serious about it. So, Spielberg obviously knows, he wouldn't be in the position he is to make those movies if
Well, he
he
made
didn't know
Jaws
that
when he
they were
was 20. He made Jaws when he was 20, 24, 25.
right.
And what did Jaws do? Stopped everybody going in the sea where they
right,
get healthy.
Right.
He's,
right.
he's been a
Right.
part of the propaganda machine
Right.
for a long time, and there's definitely inside it. I thought Reagan would have said, "Nancy, where's my diaper?" But that's the version I heard. And it's really
Right.
when you mention Reagan, I get conflicting. I don't know about you guys, but I get conflicting feelings because on one hand I thought he was amazing, on the other hand he was at Bohemian Grove, and it's like, and I think I'm bringing that up for the sake of the audience because there might be people saying, well, we know the truth about Spielberg? Well, he might actually, there might be bad guys in this whole thing that we're watching. There are actually good guys playing bad guys, and
Right.
it is, my
Right.
advice to people like that is that don't get married to the. I think Adam DeGenerate is an evil bastard. Epstein on that show, horrible. But what if it's all part of the wake up? And the thing is, who knows? And the thing is, it doesn't matter because it's all designed to make you turn inward. Just keep
Right.
remembering that.
And I always say that
Right.
everyone that we talk about, it's so easy. We don't know them. It's so easy for us to talk about them
Yeah,
and say this stuff. But at the end of the day, I think what we're largely looking at is people have been blackmailed into these positions. Who knows? Steven Spielberg at some point might have just been an aspiring director. Maybe that's what he wanted to make movies, and then an offer was made, and he signed something he didn't realize he was signing. Next thing you know, he's drugged at a party. Next thing you know, he wakes up and there's this video of him doing something that will ruin his life if it ever gets leaked. That's type of scenario that we hear over and over. It comes out a lot from the rap industry. A lot of those guys are talking. And if it happens there, it's happening in the music in the movie industry as well. And in all genres of music and even in secret societies and politics and royal family. Like
Hmm.
these people are being groomed into these positions, they're being blackmailed, and a lot of times they don't want to be in that position, but they don't have a choice because maybe their family's threatened. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows?
They'll threaten
Yeah,
everyone you love, your family, everyone you love. They're like, we'll
right.
kill them. We'll torture them.
But what I'm trying to
You're like,
say
okay.
is,
You know,
with everything that's happening, even with the conflict in Iran and everything in as far as the war goes, we don't actually know what's at stake for these people, and we'd be silly to think that we did know.
right.
that's right. We just got to enjoy the journey. I mean, as you were saying that, I was reminded of Isaac Cappy talking about Jim Carrey ringing him up and saying, "Oh God, what do I do?" And all of that. And then we see this weird Jim Carrey the other week, and it's none of us know everything. None of us know the truth about everything, but it's a general direction that we're going in, isn't it? And
Hmm.
it is about enjoying that journey as much as you possibly can. But I have to say to people who've never seen me, I am an apocalyptimist, which means I'm optimistic about the apocalypse, which really means the great unveiling, not the end of the world. And I think that's just been a strong feeling that I've had my whole life. And I know everybody doesn't share that, but that's also part of it's an individual journey at the end of the day.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
We've been going for about an hour now. I don't want
Have
to take up
we?
too. Yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your
Yeah. Flew
time.
by.
It flew by.
What it
We
what it
don't.
means is you were shit and can't be asked doing any more with you.
No, no.
Translation.
Hey,
No.
we can. I would love to
No.
keep going. I just want to
No.
respect your time. So if you want to keep
No, I'm
rolling,
good, man. I'm like,
okay.
I mean, let's ask the audience if they've had enough.
All right. No, I
They're
think they're
more,
enjoy.
they're
I
more
think
important than us.
I
Uh,
think they're enjoying this.
Okay, good. Well,
there's an interesting comment, though. Somebody said in 2017, while on a flight from Illinois to Georgia, I saw flying eggs outside of the window. There were two
well,
that flew side by side, then three followed them in a horizontal format,
that
followed by two more.
that was me because whenever I see a bad pilot, I throw eggs at them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was
It
Mark
was
throwing
actually
eggs.
a chicken that was flying above the plane that laid some eggs. Now,
I
Right,
know there's a chicken and egg in
yeah.
bed, right? They've just made love, and the chicken turns to the eggs, lights a cigarette, and says, "Well, I guess we know now."
right, right.
Um,
But on a serious
Sorry,
note, that is,
go on some bad jokes.
yeah.
there, because a lot of the UFO activity, like who are going to see UFOs more than anyone? Well, pilots, you would think, right? So a lot of people, the way they are like, oh well, if this was real, you'd have, pilots would be seeing it constantly and they'd be talking about it. Well, some do talk about it, but a lot of them literally they will lose their job if they
That
see
was
it.
Right.
my first job.
You will lose your job if you go around
That was
saying,
my
"Hey, I
first.
saw UFOs."
That
That
was
was
your
That
my
was your
first.
first
first
job.
job, so yeah.
I was a
Tell
pilot.
tell us about it.
Yeah, I was a pilot. I could fly before I could drive. Yeah, I saw ships all the time.
Hmm.
The one thing that they did, you know, fudge us about was like magnetic north and true north and stuff like that. But I was very young, so we were, we believed everything we were told in training. But there was a lot of guys, a lot of the older guys, the older pilots in the RAF. They would often talk about weird sightings and things like that, especially the Foo Fighters from the Second World War.
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they've been seen by people throughout the last century. They're not just Second World
right.
War; they were all the time. And the Foo Fighters, I think,
Mhm.
are the Sphere. I mean, I'm talking to Patrick Jackson. Have you spoken to Patrick Jackson? He
Mm-mm.
wrote a book called
No.
The Sphere Network, and I think he's right because these small spheres, there's like three layers of spheres that. I mean, I live in the UFO capital of Ireland. This was the headquarters in this town of the UFO Society of Ireland for about 20 years because in 97 there was a crash in the hills over there, a UFO crash, and the whole town was kind of locked down and there were men in black and there was US military everywhere. It was like, what? And that attracted some really interesting people here. One of which was a guy called Dr. Eamon Ansbro, who's worked for the space agencies as a professional astronomer. And I've met him a few times, and he lives around here. And he set up a space telescope here in the early 2000s and recorded 40,000 UFOs. It was an automatic detection telescope, and he's
Hmm.
recorded over 40,000 UFOs. And he came up with a theory 20 years ago that these spheres were operating on a schedule, and they were like patrolling the planet. And Patrick Jackson's new book, The Sphere Network, kind of agrees with that, and I agree with it as well because every time I look up, I see them. There are different patterns, but there's certainly a route that they go down in a methodical way. And Eamon actually has been predicting when they're going to show up many times, and groups of people go out and say, right, it's going to be over the lake at between 8 and 10 o'clock, and they go down. I went down just before Christmas. There they were. I didn't see them this time, but my friend stayed because I had to come back and make my kids dinner. But they saw them, and that's what I think relates to Disclosure Day because the non-human intelligence has been here longer than us, and that's
Long time. Yeah,
yeah, and that's really exciting. So when we talk about excuse me, ETs, people get bogged down with, oh, there is no space. It's all water. They're all below the earth.
yeah.
I
Oh
don't
yeah,
think it. I don't think it matters. I don't. I would really want to find out. I want to actually see them, and I have seen some of them. But these boogospheres and all that kind of stuff. It's so exciting, but it's all spiritual, and
yeah,
this is where this is where people miss it. They're looking for metal objects, but the things I've seen are multi-dimensional.
Right.
They're of a kind
yeah.
of color that I've never seen before, and you can't even explain it properly. It's like an animation. It's
Yeah.
really strange. It's a
I
bit
think
like
there's that too, but and I think most of the physical stuff is our own stuff, the stuff that
yeah.
we've developed here, and most of the non-physical stuff is the non-human, or all of the non-physical stuff would be, yeah, interdimensional stuff going on, higher dimensional beings, you name it, And it's like, because people are, there's always people making arguments or talking about like, oh, I think it's all this. I think it's all military, secret military. Or no, I think it's all ET. No, I think it's all interdimensional. No, I think it's all. It's like, no, guys, it's all of that. It's all
It's
of the
all of
above.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
All of that is happening. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of like putting those pieces together and figuring out what the heck is going on with all of this stuff. It's trying to like fit the pieces together and that's what I think we try to do on the show is like we know all of that's going on. It's just a matter of like how does it fit together and what's the bigger
Right.
picture going on here, right?
And really, really quick before we move on, anybody in the chat, if you guys have questions, please put question in front of your question and we will try to get to it if you're okay to take a couple questions, Mark. And one of the first ones here is clone tech. Can they clone personality and memories besides the body form? I don't know if we actually know that for a fact. I'm sure we could speculate on that. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
Well, cloning's definitely real, without a doubt. I did a show on it last week actually, and can they clone personalities? Was that the question?
And yeah, personality. What is the question? And memories, personality and memories.
I'd say so, yeah. I mean, for me, that's like software going into hardware, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, if you can clone a human, then why wouldn't you be able to do that? I mean, they can move souls out of bodies. They can, just walk. There's so much they can do. It wouldn't surprise me if they could do that. I'll put it that way.
And it wouldn't be a very good clone if they couldn't do that. In
Right.
fact, right.
Well, that
Uh,
depends whether you think they're putting in the original soul and personality. It's very interesting because one of the things I think Aaron mentioned earlier that made me think of, these people who put their fingers in the ears. It was Guy Anderson I was interviewing the other day, who's written a book about Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Dolls, and he said something very interesting to me last week, and that is that it's a misnomer that clones can't reproduce. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never even thought of
Mm.
that before. And then the second thing he said was, well, these Cabbage Patch doll kids from the 1800s Great Reset um, were clones, and they were created because they didn't have any ancestral memory. And I thought that was a really interesting
I
idea.
think I've seen the same exact video you're referencing. Uh, But anyway, go ahead.
Probably. We did a
Yeah,
whole webinar. We literally did the entire webinar on, well, it was on
clone.
Tartaria, but a big chunk of it was on the Cabbage Patch stuff and the cloning and the reset going on
Right.
there, which is very interesting.
But yeah, the fact that clones can reproduce. And
And
there's a movie out
clones
there
can
called,
reproduce. Yeah.
there's a really bad movie, but good in the sense that there's disclosure. It's actually a weird musical, but it's called Patch Town. Have you seen it?
No,
It's disclosure about the Cabbage Patch Kids actually being like clones. And there's this whole factory where they're basically cloning these children, and the people that run the factory are the clones themselves, but they're all under mind control, and they got this like frequency that keeps them under mind control, and the way they break. I'm just ruining the whole movie because it's a good movie, but it's not. It's really terrible at the same time. Uh, and at the end of the movie, how they break the mind control is, well, one of the people, one of the Cabbage Patch Kids wakes up. They realize that they were grown in a factory, right? And they start having this awakening. Well, they go back to the factory to try and wake up their other people, but they're not waking up. So they go over the intercom system and play this song, and the song dismantles the mind control frequency, and they all snap out of this trance. So it's also disclosure that music or frequency can override the mind control, which is interesting.
100%. And as you were saying that, what was it? I was down. Oh, no, no. So one of my key messages is like what we're going through is a big part of what we're going through is remembering who we really are. And, I often say to everybody that's watching, go and get a QHHT session, do a past life regression, find out. And I've done that. But if you imagine that there's millions of people here that don't have any memories and don't have traumas from past life, they're the ones that are easier to program. And them remembering who they are is like, well, they're 100 years, they've been here 100 years, whereas some of us have been here millions of years. It's like there's a big difference between those two things, isn't it? And they're in at the end of the
Right.
day, they're all God's creations, and we should be. I just want to know the truth, but there's a place in Scotland. I don't know if you two are aware of it, called Roslin Chapel. You heard of that?
I've heard of it.
I've
I've
heard
heard
of it,
of it.
yes.
I've heard of
Don't
it.
know much about it.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
anything about it.
it's just outside of Edinburgh, and there's a lot of interesting Tartarian architecture in Edinburgh, like you wouldn't believe. And I've been turned away from Roslin Chapel twice. And when you go to Roslin, it's a very powerful place. You go into a local pub near the chapel, and it says, "Welcome to Roslin, the home of cloning." This is where Dolly the sheep was cloned 30 years ago,
Oh, okay.
and there's no way they stopped Dolly the sheep.
No.
It's all there and it's happening. And I literally turned once. I was supposed to do a tour there, and then they cancelled it and said, "No, you're not coming." With another guy called Michael Feely, who's a friend of mine. And then the second time was I was doing a talk in Edinburgh 2 years ago, and I just went there in the afternoon to go and see if I could get in. And a guy comes out and says, "No, we're closing." I said, "It's 3 o'clock. What do you mean you closed?" "No, we're sorry, we're closing." And he locked us out. And I thought that was very interesting. Don't know what that's got to do with anything, but I just thought you might find it interesting. There's this place, the capital of cloning in the world is Roslin outside of Edinburgh,
I,
which is, of
I,
course, the Scottish Rite and everything else is there. And Arthur's
Right.
seat could be Jerusalem. There's a Tartarian. So I mean, it's just fascinating.
Right. I
Very.
love stories like that. We got questions flying in. Let me try and scroll back and see.
Yeah, Mark Sabas was a good one.
What did Mark say? Oh,
He
what's happened to my screen?
said, question. I've heard Mark mention before of ETs watching slash monitoring him when he looks at the sky. What does he think these beings are? I've heard him mention Arcturus, I believe. Mark, do you want to?
Who mentioned Arcturus?
So let me
I
read it
was
again.
just saying
So,
Lily Nova's in the chat. I wanted to say hello because she introduced us. Hi, Lily.
hey,
Yeah,
Lily.
yeah. Hey, Lily. Yes, I'm thirsty and hungry. She asked me if I'm thirsty
She-
or hungry.
Yeah, I
She
see that
brought
too.
me a yerba mate and she's outside my house apparently.
Oh, there you go.
Uh,
Nice.
Break in his house and
right.
food.
Uh,
Uh, so he said Mark Saba said he had heard you mention before that ETs were watching and monitoring you when you looked at the sky, and he's asking who do you think those beings are? Do you remember that?
Well, I do tell a story about, and I'll tell you guys because you might find it interesting. When the podcast started, it was thousands of emails a week. It's still hundreds, but it was thousands. It was crazy, and I had to pay somebody to sift through them. And one came through, and it said, it was one line that made me read it. It said, "They know you look up every night," and I was like, how would they know that? Because I've looked up every single night of my life, and except when it's cloudy, and or I've been drunk, stuck in a
Yeah.
pub, and yeah. So this grabbed me, and basically I got instructions on how to connect to a star, which I went outside and I did. And it was interesting. You said a question earlier about being afraid because I got as I was connecting with this star, and I was communicating telepathically with it. And then while I was having this conversation, there was a bright flash over here. And I looked over there, obviously, and I heard, "Did you see that?" I was like, "Yes." And then there was another one, and I heard, "Did you see that?" And then I heard, "Are you afraid?" And I said, "No." And then this beautiful light just popped up right over there above the houses, and it just moved along really slowly. And it was like a white that you can't describe. There's no paint color that would match it. It was just stunning, and I was just stood there watching it, going, "Wow!" And then it came across here, and the sky lit up like an electric blue color, and there was this triangular ship there that was burnt orange in color with round corners. It wasn't a TR3B, round corners, and it had black hieroglyphics on it, and then it just went like that and disappeared.
wow.
And I was like,
Wow.
"Whoa!" And I was like, "Oh, what was that?" Because it felt very familiar but
Right.
wasn't sure. And I interviewed Alex Collier about 3 weeks later, and I told
Nice.
him the story off air, and he said that was your future self. And when he said it, I didn't
Hmm.
go, "Don't be stupid." I went, "Oh, that is interesting." And
Right.
Maybe.
I think there's something to that.
No, I do believe
Yeah.
that we visit ourselves sometimes. Yeah. And I
Yeah, for
don't
sure.
mean to move on so quickly, but we have a lot of questions here and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
one and there's a few I want to get to.
So I don't know if I was helpful in that one,
No,
but
it
carry
was
No, I
absolutely.
think that was an amazing answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and thank you for sharing that. Lily
Yeah.
has a question. Lily Nova has a question, but she didn't follow the rules and put question first, so we're going to skip it. Um,
Sorry, Lily.
no, uh, she said,
All the
"What's
rules.
in all caps too? What's up with Scotland and Scottish ancestry?" I don't know. That's fairly vague, but maybe you can chime in on that, Mark.
Well, I think the British Isles are a bigger part of history than we might realize, and the story about the British Empire. Why is it so powerful? And it's the ley lines, right? It's incredibly powerful. Why is the Scottish Rite from there? Why did Britain become this massive empire, and still is? Ostensibly, it's yeah. So this link back to Trump's dad having Christ in his name, and this Bible that he held outside the White House a few years back. 'Cause it's all linked back to that, and that's going to be part of this story. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff about Scotland that we don't know yet. I mean, Scotland. There's arguments around this and whether it's named after Scotia, right? So Scotia was the great granddaughter of Akhenaten, who was pharaoh of Egypt for 17 years. Interesting number, right? And
17.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's a. I'll tell you what would help Lily, or anybody else interested, is there's a book you can all go and read for free, and I talk about this all the time because it's one of the greatest books on history I've ever read, and it's called Ireland, Land of the Pharaohs, right? And if you Google it, the book's out of print, but if you Google it, you can get the PDF. And that book is full of so much really interesting information that relates to all the Atlantean and Lemurian technology that is all around this Atlantic side of Ireland, which swept. You know, if you get halfway through Britain, it stops. That technology stops as you get to the east of Britain. But as you come in from the Atlantic side, the island, I'm surrounded by ancient technology. Portal tombs, dolmens, cairns that have the same technology as pyramids. They're much older than the pyramids. They're all around us, and it's like that's the really fascinating thing for me. And I think, Scotland and Ireland were connected. There's a thing called the Giant's Causeway. I don't know if
Hmm.
you've heard of that,
Yes.
which is in Northern Ireland. And I've sailed around the Inner Hebrides in a tall ship. And between Scotland and Ireland, there's this huge rock that's made of exactly the same hexagonal shape rocks as the Giant's Causeway. So if you can imagine the water was lower, I think that really is a Giant's Causeway. And I think Scotia was a giant, but not as big as Akhenaten. He was much bigger. And I think that there's a place in Ireland called Scotia's Grave down in Kerry, but I don't think it is Scotia's Grave. I think it's up in a different place called Clonmont. I'm not going to mention it actually. And there's so much more to this hidden history, and it is all connected. And the way I've learnt this is, well, through one, being interested, two, not getting married to any ideas. I mean, there's a lot of dogmatic kind of history being taught by people that we think are out there, like Graham Hancock, for example. He's out there, but then you get archaics who says, well, no, actually, I've disproven everything that Graham says. And then you go, well, actually, that's very compelling. And then you look at Roger on Mud Fossil University, and the whole of North Africa is a giant serpent that got brought down from the heavens. So I don't know if that's answered any questions, but yeah, Scotland's interesting.
So does Trump have Scottish heritage? Is he?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's because
Well, his
Lily,
mother is Scottish. Yeah.
right, and in fact, Leah Ray, somebody we've interviewed, is Trump's cousin, and she has a very interesting story about the heritage on the Hebrides Islands and stuff like that. And fairies, even like the Fae come into the equation, which is a really interesting part of the story that she shares. But so I guess Lily, I don't know.
I got poked awake by Oberon 5 years ago. He's the king of the fairies, and that all relates to the Tuatha Danann. The Tuatha Danann landed here on a spaceship at Iron Mountain, which is about half an hour away from it. I could go on about this forever, but yeah, it is very interesting.
So what is the significance of Trump being Scottish then? Lily said she's 45% Scottish and feeling called to look into the history. So that was a previous question. I guess there's just a deeper history there than most people understand from the way I gather it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's people that think that Edinburgh is Jerusalem, for example, and there's quite compelling evidence for that. Although a lot of people
Interesting.
laugh at me when I say that, but and also the more you understand about history and Tartarian or everything else, you can go back to these places and see things through different eyes, can't you? That's the thing that I'm really
Hmm.
enjoying about this, going back
Right.
to some of these places. In
Oh
fact,
man.
I did a talk in Edinburgh 2 years ago, and that video is up on my YouTube channel. I put it up again a week ago, and when I got to this venue, there was a massive mural, huge Egyptian, really high quality Egyptian mural right outside this taxi club and the back street in Edinburgh. It's like, what's that doing there? You know,
Wow.
so it's all connected to this
Right.
ancient civilizations because is America Israel? Is the Grand Canyon Egypt? Who knows? I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's great fun finding out. So yeah, do some research on your Scottish heritage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
Were
that's
you gonna say something,
fascinating.
Aaron?
Well, I was going to say that, what's interesting about, we're taught that, there's the modern day, oh, Egypt is here, right? And that's it. But then they keep finding ancient Egyptian stuff on multiple other continents or other places, like in North America, and Ireland or Scotland, and Mexico and um, all these other places around the world. They're finding things that, you know, Egyptian hieroglyphs or Egyptian looking things. I mean, right there, Tyler, in Sedona,
Right.
who is it, Deborah Thunderbeat, has like documented. She's like, you can see what look like ruins of like fair of sphinxes and statues and things that look Egypt. It all looks Egyptian pyramids.
Right.
And if you look, like it's been weathered away and like destroyed a little bit, but it's you can definitely see it. So there's a lot of Egyptian. It's like okay, well, this civilization was probably like worldwide at one point in the past,
Right.
right? And that's back in the Atlantis times. So where do you think, it's like what we see as Egypt is like, oh, it's just this one place and it was only built 5,000 years ago or whatever. It's like, no, no, no. That goes back to Atlantis time. It goes back many thousands of years.
Right.
And it was way more than just that one location. I think it was on probably
Yeah.
every continent, right? But it's interesting the Scotland connection. There seems to be something important there
Right.
going on with Egypt or with that
And
civilization.
and guys, I don't mean to be rude as far as not getting to everyone's question because I can't. It's hard to keep up with that, and we're trying to, still have this conversation. Mark Sabas wants to know what you think of Lily Nova. Is she legit or is she a clone or a robot?
Of Lily.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I've only met her on Zoom, and she's brilliant. I've still got one of her mugs she gave me 5 years ago. So I
Nice.
think Lily's doing great work. So I
Yeah.
don't.
It's a
He's
friend of ours. He was
he's a
Oh, is
joking.
it?
friend. He's
Okay.
trolling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Somebody asked
She's a
about,
clone then. She's a
She's a
clone.
clone. She's a clone.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a clone.
Right. Everyone I don't like is a clone. How about
right.
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Somebody asked about the Golden Dome and Gene Decode. The way he describes the Golden Dome is this multi-dimensional thing that even involves time travel and stuff. What are your thoughts on that? Do you know anything about it?
I don't know a lot about it, but yeah, I think a lot of what's going on with the Iran stuff and what Venezuela is that this advanced technology is being being disclosed, and I think the Golden Dome, yeah, it's either that or it's a Frankie Goes to Hollywood song. Oh, that's the Pleasure Dome. I get them confused. Sorry.
Uh,
Yeah.
qu Little question, Little Brazil, what's the deal? I don't know about Little Brazil.
It's
Any,
ringing a bell, but I don't have anything in my head about it at the moment.
Aaron, if you see any questions that are interesting too, just
Okay. Lily says, "Don't say that. Everyone's gonna think I'm a clone." LMAO.
yeah, they're gonna have to take a clip from this.
People are gonna clip out that, and
Right.
they're gonna use that as the proof that Lily's a clone now. Sorry, Lily.
I actually looked in the mirror in about 21, look at myself in the mirror going, Mark, are you a clone? Because I don't, how would you know?
Right.
That's a great
Well,
question.
according to certain movies, there's different ways to tell. Well, there's an answer to this question. So, Johann Fritz, when we had him
Yeah.
speak at our conference, he was asked, and he said very matter of factly, he said, a clone has uh, like an ID number under the thumbprint that can only be seen with like a crazy high-powered microscope. Like not like your Walmart one, but he said like once you zoom way in, there'll be like a serial code there. And in the movie End of Days, not End of Days, I'm sorry, The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's
Mm.
all about cloning. I think it's that movie I'm thinking of. They
Yeah.
know they're cloned by flipping down their bottom eyelid, and you can see like a little mark under your bottom eyelid in the movie. That's how they can tell. So there are these markers that would indicate whether you're the original or the host or the clone. And just find it interesting. Who knows if those are even real ways to identify it? But
You
I'm
know what I
sure
just thought
there's,
of?
there's
Yeah. You know what I just thought of too? Sorry to cut you. The belly button, because unless they can just like replicate that exactly, because that is where they clamp the umbilical cord that you only get from being born naturally. So if you're cloned, I would think there would be like a difference maybe there too. I mean, I'm just
yeah.
guessing there, but maybe not. I don't know.
I heard somebody else say that clones have connected earlobes. That doesn't mean if you have connected earlobes,
Hmm.
you're a clone. But I mean,
Maybe
that to
like they
me,
all do though or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
maybe from one factory. I don't know. I guess they're talking about High Brazil is what they were talking about.
Oh, was
Um,
that in Antarctica?
off the coast of Wales,
Oh, no. No, no. Yeah, yeah.
High Brazil, part of Atlantis.
Oh, off the
I'm
coast
I'm
of
no good for that
Wales.
question. I've forgotten all about Hy Brazil.
Cool
I'd love to.
question. What's the deal with High Brazil? Yeah, I don't know if we have the answer to that one. Sorry.
I
Uh,
don't.
right. Okay. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has absolutely been a pleasure, and I would love to do more of these if you're down for that. And can you please let our audience know where they can find you, what you have going on, anything coming up, all the above?
Well, I want to say it's been great to meet both of you. It's lovely to meet people that you've watched for years, and you've done a great job, and really admire your work. And thank you for inviting me on. Well, I make daily videos pretty much on YouTube and X. You can find me on there. I've got a healing center, live5dhealth.com, which is pretty amazing. And we're running retreats there if anybody wants to. We're trying to build a healing village here, which is pretty amazing. Um, if you're interested in any of my books, go to 104publishing.com. Otherwise, whatever, I'll meet you down the pub.
104publishing.com. So I didn't put that link in the description. I'll add it. But so they're not available on Amazon, only through that website?
Well, no, I had to reinvent the pub. It sounds so cocky. I had to reinvent the publishing industry because Amazon doesn't tell you who's bought your book, gives you 30% 3 months down the line. The average author on Amazon earns $500 a year. So I thought that's no good. And the publishing industry is controlled by the cabal. So I had to come up with a way of publishing books where we could give it away for free so that anybody could get the book if they didn't have the money, because that is an issue for a lot of people.
Right.
And then I did it for this book first because I wrote this book, Weapons of Mass Protection, Practical Tools for Spiritual Warfare, with my friend Abby. And she was a Hay House author, and for 10 years she's been a writer, and never earned any money. And I said, well, look, we need to earn money because and we need to give it away for free. And she was like, how do you do that? I said, well, you give it away for free, you earn more money. How? So that's what I did.
Right.
Um, so yeah, we you got to bypass these systems because you don't know how many books you've really been. Amazon, censors things, but it public lets you publish things, but you don't know who's seen it, and
Right.
you got no control over it. It's no good for authors basically.
Yeah.
And the publishing industry pays 5%. Anyway, we've published about 4 books so far, and we've got one coming out on satanic ritual abuse. We've got one coming on about the truth about autism. We've got one about Ireland, and we've got one called Murdered in the State, which is a very amazing book by the journalist Jackie Devoy, who's made 3 films in the last 5 years about all the murders in the medical system, and this book as well. So yeah, I'm just doing my best really,
Yeah.
trying to get the information wars on multiple fronts, and I think books are a very important part of that. So are live
Mhm.
Yeah.
events, so are videos, so are podcasts, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, books can't be censored as easily as everything else. So
Right.
they can be, I mean, from like Amazon and stuff. But once the book's printed, it's a lot harder to censor that.
Right.
So it's very important
And
for you to know.
somebody asked, do you have any plans coming to the US?
I would love to come. Well, that's why I said about Hawaii, because it's right at the top of my list. Hawaii is Lemuria. It's like really, I've wanted to go. We wanted to go there for so long, and when I saw that, if I
Well,
can
we'll
get
see you
there,
there. We'll see you there next month.
if I can, I will. But
Yeah.
there's some personal issues with that. I've got things going on here in terms of other stuff, but yeah, I'd love to go there, and I'd love to. I've been invited back. I've had to turn it down 3 or 4 times because I've been. When I toured America in 2022, I used up a lot of tokens with my kids because I was away for I was away for 5, 6 weeks, and that was a lot. That was too long, right? So
Mm.
I've been staying in Ireland and making it up to them because I don't like leaving my kids. But they're growing up now, so I'm going to be freer to do stuff. New Zealand's probably top of my list actually for touring, but
Right.
yeah, I'd love to come back to the States. I love the States. I'd live in Trump's America when all
Mhm.
the shit's cleared out, definitely, if he'd have me.
Of course, bring it on.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
please.
somebody asked about our email address. They can go to our website, journeytotruth.online, and you can find everything we do offer there, including email us, sign up for the email newsletter, or just journeytotruthpodcast@gmail.com if you're interested in emailing us. And yeah, that's very fascinating about the books that you're releasing. I love all that stuff. Congratulations. And would you like me to, somebody asked about your poetry. We do have that video that you sent me. If you want to, we can close this out and play that video if you'd like, Mark.
I'd love that. I mean, this poem, if I can tell you about it briefly, was all the poems I wrote. I did put them all in a book, which I think is here, called God Wins. This is
Nice.
not currently available for the hardback sold out, and I haven't put this one up on Amazon yet. But these poems all came out, and they were all divine. This one came through anyway. The way the video came together was mind blowing because it was like a world class cinematographer, musician, editor, and they all worked for free. And I was like, I need to pay you for this, and they were like, we don't want any money, just get it out. And we got it out there, and when I got the rough cut back from the editor, it was really interesting because I was stood at the back door here, and it came in at 4 minutes 44 seconds, which I
Hmm.
had nothing to do with, right? The editor had
Nice.
to do with. And then while I was stood at the back door, I pressed play on the video, and I was just listening to it to see if it sounded okay. And about 10 seconds into it, the poem's called I See You. It's not about me seeing people, it's about God seeing you. And what I got told was it was also for me, and I burst into tears. So I love this poem. I'm very it's
Okay,
and
well,
it's a gift for everybody.
It's
beautiful.
amazing.
I got it queued up here, so let me share my screen, share the sound, and we'll go ahead and play it, and then we'll wrap it up as soon as this is over. Hang tight for about 5 more minutes, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, here we go. Oh,
I see you twinkling in the sky, shimmering in Van Gogh's eye, sparkling as the starseed you really are. You've come so far. Born onto the facsimile earth, all memories erased. Not one iota of your talents, of the children you once raised. I see you. You never felt accepted. You never felt the same. Your friends and family alien, often seemed insane. They pointed fingers at you. They laughed behind your back. Whilst you were dancing with fairies and angels, you were on a different track. I see you. You felt alone. You did your best. You smiled through all the pain. They beat you and abused you. They knew you'd come to end their reign. As winters came and summers left, the leaves fell over years. The spirit voice inside your soul grew louder through your tears. I see you. They broke you down, they tricked you, they stabbed you through the heart. They feasted on your effervescence, they relished you apart. They stole your youth, they stole your money, convinced you they were right. But every time they ripped you open, closer came their night. I see you. Like the caterpillar at the end of life, entombed inside the cocoon. The hero's journey final act, when all seems certain doom. Those belittled words of faith and belief diminish amidst the noise, yet you hold on, you won't let go. For the battle, you are poised.
I see you!
Deep, deep down, you hear the cry. In remembrance, you answer, yes. The fight was laid before you. To come is yet the best. Besmirched, belittled, tossed aside, you nearly lost your way. letting go of all beloveds. You tried your truth to say, I see you. As the veil it dissipated, as all the solids melted, the remnants left fought their way to sovereignty, once doubted. You stood your ground, you found your power, your strength became unbounded. For you are the warrior child of this world. In your brilliance, our future founded. I see you.
Don't ever make me run up a fucking sand dune for a fucking poem again. You.
I can't.
Oh, that's funny. We got some the next video up. Guitar.
Yeah, as you can see, I have a childlike sense of humor, and if anything gets too serious, I have to do a joke.
That was great. That
Right.
was absolutely beautiful. The people in the chat loved
was
it. I mean,
beautiful.
hearts
Yeah.
all around. It was really good. Thank you so much for making that. And what a way to end it with some laughter. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mark. This has been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, everyone go check out his website. Send me the link, please, for your books, and we'll put that in the description. And go check out his YouTube channel, I meant to say. And you're on X, right? You
Yeah,
have an
x.com/Mark Atwood. And if I probably won't make it to Hawaii, but I hope you have a fantastic time there, everybody, because that looks awesome.
All right, we'll see you there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Take care.
All right, guys, we love you.
Thanks so much.
Have a great day. Thank you all for being here today. We can't do this without you. Seriously, we appreciate your support. And until next time, just have a great week. Have a great day. Good night. Good day.
See ya.
Wherever
Bye.
you're at.
Yeah.